It's early 1942, and the United States was only a little more than a year into World War II. Tensions were high, and there was always a possible threat for a mainland attack after the terrible loss at Pearl Harbor. U.S. citizens were on the lookout for any suspicious activities and worried if it was possible for the mainland of the United States to be attacked. Little did the city of Los Angeles know that they would see a battle. However, they would be in a battle amongst each other. Some call it a huge blundering mistake, others claim it was military practice for an actual attack, and others claim it might have been an event from out of this world. Unfortunately, lives were lost that night, regardless of the origin of the battle. Welcome back to History in Their Words, where we explore history through the eyes of those who witnessed or participated in it. This excerpt comes from Jack Smith from the Los Angeles Times. He reports the following.
It was on the night of February 25th, 1942, that Los Angeles experienced the Great Los Angeles Air Raid. It was a night when everyone's fears, apparently, were realized. Japan had brought the war to mainland America, and Los Angeles was the target. The Great Air Raid began at 2:25 a.m. on that clear, moonlit night, when the U.S. Army announced the approach of hostile aircraft, and the city's air raid warning system went into action for the first time in the war. Suddenly, the night was torn by sirens. Searchlights swept the sky. Gun crews at army posts along the coastline began pumping ack-ack into the moonlight. In the entire episode, 1,433 rounds would be fired. Thousands of volunteer air raid wardens tumbled from their beds and grabbed their boots and helmets, those who had helmets, and rushed into the night. Tens of thousands of citizens, awakened by the screech of sirens and the popping of shells, jumped out of bed and, heedless of blackout regulations, began snapping on lights. It was pandemonium. Although no bombs were dropped, the city did not escape its baptism of fire without casualties, including 5 fatalities. 3 residents were killed in automobile accidents as cars dashed wildly about in the blackout. 2 others died of heart attacks. Several persons were injured hurrying to their various posts. A radio announcer ran into an awning and suffered a gash over one eye. A police officer kicked in the window of a lighted Hollywood store and cut his right leg. The toll among air raid wardens was especially high. They were said to have acted with valor throughout. One fell from a wall while looking into a lighted apartment and broke a leg. Another jumped a 3-foot fence to reach a lighted house and sprained an ankle. Another fell down his own front stairs and broke an arm. There was scattered structural damage caused by anti-aircraft shells that failed to explode in air, but did so when they struck the ground, demolishing a garage here, a patio there, and blowing out a tire on a parked automobile. Exultation was in the air. The city had met its first taste of war with valor. It was exhilarating. But exultation turned to embarrassment the next day when the Secretary of the Navy said there had been no air raid, no enemy planes. It was just a case of jitters. Embarrassment turned to outrage. The Army was accused of shooting up an empty sky. The sheriff was particularly embarrassed. He had valiantly helped the FBI round up several Japanese nurserymen and gardeners who were supposedly caught in the act of signaling the enemy aviators. The Secretary of War tried to save face by saying that while there were no enemy aircraft in the air, it was believed that 15 commercial planes flown by enemy agents had crossed the city. Though no one believed this gross canard, most agreed with the Secretary that it is better to be too alert than not alert enough. At war's end, an Army document explained what had happened. 1. Numerous weather balloons had been released over the area that night. They carried lights for tracking purposes, and these lighted balloons were mistaken for enemy aircraft. 2. Shell bursts illuminated by searchlights were mistaken by ground crews for enemy aircraft. The Japanese, after the war, declared that they had flown no airplanes over Los Angeles on that date. All the same, it was a glorious night, and I commend its memory to those who think Los Angeles has no history.
The Great Los Angeles Air Raid of 1942 remains one of the most mysterious and chaotic moments in the city's history. What began as a night of fear and valor ended in confusion and embarrassment, as no enemy aircraft were ever confirmed. Whether caused by war jitters, misidentified objects, or something more mysterious, the event highlights the tense atmosphere of wartime America and the power of fear in uncertain times.